Jordan's mom. And I would like to start by saying that as her mother, it is a horrifying moment to receive a call that your daughter had been injured and is in the hospital. Jordan spent 3 days there. During that time, she was treated for bilateral punctured lungs, 6 broken ribs, a hematoma behind her windpipe, a torn shoulder muscle, bruising that was so significant she had to have daily vitamin K shots so that she didn't get blood clots. Jordan has had CT scan, MRI, x-rays, ultrasounds. All of this was very terrible for us to live through, and we feel lucky today that she is alive. Once we were able to take Jordan home, she was on heavy narcotics for weeks for her pain. She had to have help to stand up, to shower, to use the bathroom, to dress herself. Jordan has had to go to physical therapy twice a week to get some strength back in her shoulder. She's had some wasting in the muscle tone. For my part, I had to miss weeks of work to take care of her immediately after the accident and driving her to and from doctor's appointments in the months to follow. It has cost me and my family lost wages, not to mention stress and heartache. As Jordan slowly recovered from her physical injuries, she has also had to endure the onset of anxiety attacks that has recently been, she's recently been to the ED for. She's done multiple appointments with her primary care to deal with this diagnosis. I believe these have partly been caused by Taylor's continued intimidation of my daughter. Despite a restraining order, Taylor repeatedly showed up places where Jordan was socializing, causing Jordan to leave crying. This only stopped after her probation officer stepped in. My issue is that Taylor has had no sympathy. Taylor pushed her, and Taylor...
I need to interject there. I mean, if there were a supervised release violation, she wasn't yet on probation. Those weren't reported to the court, so I wasn't aware of them.
He was able to violate her just on the address and the phone number change, so that's what he did, and he had a long talk with her, and after that it stopped. After Taylor pushed her, she did not rush down to see if Jordan was okay. She left the scene. She did not show up at the hospital to check on Jordan. She did not stop by her home to see if she was okay, or in any way act like a friend. When Jordan's twin brother messaged Taylor and asked her what happened, her response was, "I don't know. What happened? I didn't see it." Instead, she went on television in New York and lied, stating that Jordan had told her to push her. If you were to watch the whole video, Your Honor, you would hear Jordan clearly saying no. And she says no multiple times. You would see Taylor's agitation and anger build as Jordan decided not to jump. Taylor made Jordan promise to get up there, and when Jordan said no, Taylor shoved her. It was intent. Finally, you would see what I watched in horror. Taylor didn't just give Jordan a little push. She deliberately shoved my daughter off that bridge with no care to her life. Taylor has continued to lie about the incident for many months and has still not shown remorse, in my opinion. I asked that she sit in jail for as long as my daughter had to lay in that hospital. I asked that she be on home confinement for as long as my daughter's had to go through this and has had to stay at home having help. I also asked that she have community service to try to be a better person, because the one thing Jordan wanted was for Taylor to be a better person. I, to this day, agree with the Clark County Sheriff. This should have been an assault, a felony assault with intent. Thank you.
I just want to clarify one thing. I think at an earlier hearing, it was stated that you were in agreement with this recommendation. What you said now would mean you're not in complete agreement with it. You think she should do, would be 4 days in jail? Is that what you think your daughter spent 4 days in the hospital? Just so I know what you're saying.
3 days, Your Honor, correct.
3 days. Okay.
And the prosecuting attorney and I haven't really come to much agreements since the beginning of this, so we've been trying to, though.
So that's fine. I mean, I have the ultimate decision, but I wasn't sure earlier. I thought they said you were okay with what the recommendation was from the prosecutor's office.
Well, originally they said she would be on probation. I'm not sure the difference between probation and bench probation, so I don't know if there's a difference there, but we agree that...
Very similar. Supervised probation to be a stricter reporting requirement. Okay.
I think she should be on probation, and that was what was in the original. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Who's speaking next? Take your time.
So, Jordan, I'm 17. I didn't ask for any of this, but last summer my said-to-be good friend changed my life for the worse.
You want a drink of water, or we can, there's an advocate here. If you want her to read your statement for you, she can, or you can read it. Please help you. Take your time.
I didn't ask for any of this, but last summer, my said good friend changed my life for the worst. This nightmare started for me when I was falling through the air, and I was really terrified. When I was being pulled from the water, I thought, I'm going to die, because I couldn't breathe, and I was watching my body change color by the second. I spent 3 days in the hospital. I couldn't shower by myself, couldn't use the bathroom by myself. I could barely even walk, and the injuries I faced were 6 broken ribs. I had punctured both my lungs. I had a hematoma behind my throat. I had torn my muscles in my rotator cuff, which reflected in the dropped shoulder, and I had very bad bruising all throughout my body. Once I left the hospital, I was left in pain. It was so bad that I was given heavy narcotics for weeks. To this day, my ribs have healed, but I still get pain and discomfort in that area. I also can't play my desired position for softball because my arm, which I'm still in physical therapy for. I've always wanted to play college softball, but now I may not get that chance. Even though it happened last summer, I can't sleep at night anymore because of PTSD and insomnia. I have these anxiety attacks that are so bad that my body feels like it's shutting down, and I feel like I'm going to die. This has taken over my life and limited the things I can do without having an attack. Through all this suffering for me, I'm just disappointed that Taylor has not owned up to her actions and wasn't sincere about apologizing. I never wanted to be pushed off that bridge, and I said no, as seen in one of the videos, and Taylor had no right, taking away my right for making my own decision that day. I was really looking forward to a sincere apology, and all I've been receiving from the family is threats and lies. Taylor has made me feel guilty and look like a bad guy in this situation when I need to remember that I have done nothing wrong.
I assume the situation where if you were going to do it, you're going to jump feet first, not be do a swan dive, right? The main problem was she pushed you, you did a belly flop, and that's what caused all the injuries, correct? Okay. Anything else you want to add to that statement? Okay, thank you. You mentioned maybe other person?
I believe there's a potential third person, Your Honor. Did anyone else wish to address the court? So as I had indicated, the state's recommendation is for the 120 days to be served with 60 days electronic home confinement, 30 days of work crew, and 30 days of community service. The $300 fine, standard fees, 2 years of bench probation with no similar law violations, no contact with the victim as a condition of the sentence, and then restitution to be determined. The state is requesting electronic home confinement, work crew, and community service because we do believe it will be more productive than jail time for the defendant, and believe that the defendant will grow from that experience more than she would from a stint in the jail. The basis for the 120 days is due to the nature of the incident, the extent of the injuries, and the extent of the medical treatment that the victim had to undergo. The beam that the victim was pushed off of is just under 52 feet above the water, so clearly dangerous situation. As far as the injuries go, as Your Honor heard, the victim did sustain multiple broken ribs, punctured lungs, air bubbles in her chest, significant trauma to large portions of her skin surface. And I am going to hand forward a photograph of the victim's left leg so that the court has an understanding of what that trauma looked like. And Your Honor,
yeah, it looks terrible.
Yeah, and I would just note for the court that The injury to her leg, as you can see in that photograph, was not just on her leg. She had similar injuries to her torso and throughout her body, so it was quite extensive. With regards to her medical treatment, she had several days in the emergency department, multiple follow-up visits, multiple visits to physical therapy, and she'll also be having to start with psych to treat her anxiety that's arisen from this incident. So again, based on all of those factors, we are asking for the 120 days. Now, with regard to restitution, it is my understanding that at this juncture, the victim is not seeking restitution. However, I am asking that the court impose restitution to be determined, just in the event that there are further unforeseen costs incurred as a result of this incident. Thank you.
So that was going to be one of my comments, that I certainly prefer the money go to the victim, because the electronic home confinement of a dialogue with you and her costs about $15 a day, so that'd be $900 she'd spend to be on electronic home confinement. I'm not sure it's really that much punishment with these comments. Now, certainly if I had somebody like a DWI that wanted to make sure they weren't drinking, to put an alcohol sensor on that device. But for some people, it's stay in your room and be on your Xbox and your social media, and it's like I say, not much punishment. But I'm going to hear from the defense and what your argument is.
Well, in terms of responsibility, Your Honor, she's pled guilty to what she did that day. Engaged in conduct that created a substantial risk of injury or death. In this case, most of the time, cases like this, there is no injury. It's just the danger of it actually this happened this time. But she did plead guilty. If there's any indication that this took a long time to get here, it's not Taylor's fault. She wasn't charged right away. She has an attorney that advised her not to resolve it right away, so any of that blame can be on me. And we did not get that recommendation from the state until last month, so it wouldn't be prudent to enter Taylor into some sort of plea without knowing potentially what's coming down the road. So I want the court to take that into account. Jordan's 17, Taylor's 19. They're still basically children, teenagers. Not that they're doing what teens do, just getting together to go swimming at the fall. I mean, it's a typical thing. But Taylor made a just very bad decision at a very, very bad time. And I want to note that this wasn't, I don't think it was a choice made with any sort of malice. I don't think anyone can make a reasoned argument that she thought, I want to put my friend in the hospital. It was just an irresponsible, reckless decision that had, unfortunately, some catastrophic consequences.
It is correct. When she saw her do what she did, she didn't jump in to save her either.
Your Honor, we dispute that. That part of it is, we're not going to have any trial there, but she did go down there. She tried to go to the hospital and was kicked out. So we don't necessarily agree with that statement. But again, okay. I have text messages in the police report that are right around that time, and Taylor saying she's sorry, I'm sorry this happened. So that's in real time. So to say that she never expressed any sort of sympathy is just not.
Well, I mean, to actually risk her life to jump in to save her when she saw the result of pushing her into the belly flop.
Well, I think there was a lot of people down at the bottom, and everyone up top ran down there, is my understanding. So I think that wasn't necessary, but yeah. And she is, I can tell you, Your Honor, she is extremely sorry about it. I've talked to her obviously multiple times. Every time she expresses a lot of remorse about what happened. She says she wished it didn't happen. I've only been able to watch the video with her twice because it's hard for her to watch it because she says she just can't believe that's her doing something like that. I think this is, she feels bad and she is sorry. I can assure the court of that. So again, when the court's making your decision, just take into account that I don't think she had any malicious intent here and didn't want to actually put her friend in the hospital. In the state's recommendation, you mentioned the home confinement. I just don't understand the utility of that. Like you mentioned, it's usually reserved for drug and alcohol issues or monitoring someone that's a danger to the community. Taylor's not a danger to the community. She's not driving around looking to hurt people. I just think that's, I just don't, again, I don't understand what use that would do. As to the work crew and community service, that's 580 hours. Doesn't take a math whiz to figure out that that's a lot of time. I don't think Taylor's going to learn any more lesson on hour 565 than she will on hour 480 or hour 372. in my opinion, I truly believe this is a recommendation based upon fear and pressure, and that fear and pressure is from the segment of the community that wants Taylor vilified and wants the book thrown at her. Also fear and pressure from why we're here on a special set and there's cameras over there and there's reporters in the back. I don't believe this would be the state's recommendation if this video was on the internet and it wasn't all over the media. I just don't believe it. I don't think that would be the case. For context, if this was an assault 2, the starting range is 90 days. Assault 3 is 30 days. And we're starting out at 120 here.
Well, but generally that'd be jail time. I'm not sure
Sure.
why this wasn't charged as an assault 3 based on criminal negligence. He certainly suffered a grievous injury.
Yep.
That's a prosecutorial decision.
But I'm stating I believe that, and I believe that's treating Taylor a little unfair, and she should be treated like anybody else, regardless of the notoriety of this case. I firmly believe that she's got no criminal history. A typical first-time misdemeanor sentence is 5 days work crew, and I'm not naive enough to recommend that, Your Honor, or think the court would do that. But I understand this is an unusual situation.
But for the grace of God, she didn't kill her. Then she'd be in 3 years in prison for manslaughter.
Yeah,
Another
that is
way to
true.
look at it. Okay. What is your recommendation, or what do you?
Well, I don't there.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. But no matter what you decide, this isn't over today. I mean, this is on the internet forever. Jordan's still suffering, obviously, from physical and emotional and mental problems from this. Taylor's probably going to continue to get death threats and be harassed online. This is not going to stop. The internet's forever. They're going to be forever linked. It's a small community. Taylor's always going to be the girl that pushed her, and Jordan's always going to be the girl that got pushed. I mean, that's what it's going to be 2, 3, 4 years from now, when everything's over. So at this point, our recommendation is 30 days of work for community service. We'd like that sentence to be deferred. She's a young lady. She's working now. I think she deserves a chance to, she looks, so to speak, like a monster shoving someone defenseless off a bridge. And I don't think that she is that person. I think she should get a chance to prove to the community and the court that she can take her punishment and get this off her record and somehow move on. She does have support family here. Her pastor wrote before a letter. He couldn't make it, and the pastor went forward to provide it to the state. I don't know if you want me to read that out loud. I just want to read it privately.
You can go ahead and read it into the record if you want to.
To whom it may concern, this is from Pastor Rob Neuschwander. I'm writing this letter in regards to Taylor Smith and the matter that lies before you. I have known Taylor in the capacity as a pastor at Riverview Community Church in Kalama, Washington. I've known Taylor over the past year and found her to be a delightful young lady. She interacts well with others, and I have witnessed no aggressive behavior of any kind. My background in education lays not only in ministry, I also carry a BS degree from Washington State University in social science with a primary concentration in psychology. I'm currently pursuing my master's in counseling at Liberty University. Having met Taylor concerning the current matter, I believe the context of the event, it would not be unreasonable to suggest that what many witnessed on video cannot possibly portray all the elements of social psychology that come into play upon that bridge. Unfortunately, young people were in fact jumping and daring one another to make the leap and did so without injury, and it's tragic that one was hurt. However, it is not beyond the scope of reasonable behavior that when one positions oneself upon a bridge to jump, it could be interpreted as they fully intended to do so. Taylor is a fine young lady that deserves an opportunity to demonstrate her true character and talents with which she desires to use in service to others. She has designs on education and career. I ask this court to act in accordance with its highest principles and consider all the factors of this incident, weighing the excellent character of a young woman with an otherwise bright future. And Taylor has a statement to the court.
Okay.
This past August, an incident happened at Molten Falls, and neither mine or Jordan's life has been the same since. I've come to the realization that kids just being kids goes a lot further than the statement itself. Throughout this terrible process, I've not only grown as a person, but I have learned to think and process outcomes before I act upon a brief moment in time. I'd like to sincerely apologize to Jordan Holgerson, her family, and friends for the pain and humiliation I have caused by my mindless action that occurred last summer. Although it may seem like my intent was to harm, or even though I've moved on without putting any punishment on myself, this is false. Jordan has passed through my thoughts repetitively since the incident. My words here are sincere. I can't say I don't deserve the hate from the media or the loss of old friends, but what I can say is that I have and will continue to try my best to right my wrongs and pray for a full recovery, not only physically but emotionally, to the Holgersons and the other people I have hurt by the decision I made. Thank you.
Anything else from the prosecutor?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Your Honor, can I add something to you really quick?
All right. Mother, I can't. He's speaking back there.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that throughout this, while Jordan was in the hospital, Taylor showed, with the no remorse, while Jordan was in the hospital, Taylor made herself to the Clark County Fair, having fun. Taylor continues to party and drink throughout this whole time, and so part of that is why we don't believe she's shown any remorse. I don't know anybody that would push somebody off a bridge and go to the fair.
You may illegally drink alcohol, I presume?
We have many pictures of instances of her drinking throughout these last 8 months, yes.
I guess you turn them over to the police, and if there's a crime, they'll investigate.
I hope the court, I would ask the court not to take unsubstantiated claims into account here. Like I said, I'm holding up a text message from the, I don't know which day it was, but it was right after. I feel awful and guilty. There's nothing I can do to take that back. There's just examples of this. She did express sympathy.
I understand that they would follow the advice of their attorney and maybe not make too many statements.
Well, once I got on, yes. And Your Honor, this is also, they all have the same friends, a lot of them, the same functions. So if they end up at the same place, that does happen.
And I have left. Every time she has shown up, I have left. Besides one time that she left. My friend told her to leave.
Sorry.
I have left every time, immediately.
So tell me what your client does now. I mean, at one point
She works for Nike.
Went to Oregon to go to college.
Yeah, that didn't go through. She works for Nike. You can explain her job a little better to them.
I work at the Nike manufacturing company in Beaverton. On weekends, graveyard shift. I basically make shoes. I am.
Does that mean part-time?
Yeah.
Is it weekend?
So it's like two. It's 2 days a week and every other Monday, right?
No, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and every other Monday.
So 3 days a week and every other Monday.
Okay. Anything else?
No, Your Honor. Again, I think this is I think I said what I had to say. I think this is obviously an unfortunate situation. But again, you can't convince me that Taylor was trying to hurt someone that day. It was just a really bad, terrible decision.
Well, I agree. She's probably the most unlikely person in the world now to push somebody off a bridge.
Yeah.
But again, on the other hand, this is about the most reckless endangerment you
I
can
would,
conceive.
I have not seen something like this in this court. I would agree with you. That's why I'm not asking for, typical, because like this, something happened that was beyond the,
Well, again, some might contend that little should happen to you because you didn't intend to harm your friend. But like I say, I've said this more than once now, you could have easily killed her. She had severe injuries. I would note, though I've not given that much weight to it, while you're on supervised release, it was alleged you were supposedly kicked out of your grandma's
that was
house
fixed within like a
for not
few days.
following her rules.
No.
Are you back living with her now or somebody else?
I'm moving into my grandma's now again because I have a job, and it wasn't about me not following her rules. We had made a deal that if I get a job, I can live under
Okay,
her
well,
roof
that's good.
again.
Sounds like you're maturing some, but
That was-
if you don't follow the rules now that I'm going to set out, you'll be back in jail.
That was cleared up within like
Okay.
days.
I'm the grandma.
Okay.
I'll be glad to talk.
Well, I don't need to have too many trials and trials. I'm just saying that's what was reported. I didn't have the hearing, but I saw that on the supervised release
Yeah.
violation that she was supposedly kicked out of the house for not following the grandmother's rules, whatever they were. Okay.
She wasn't kicked out.
All right. Get that cleared up. So, in light of the serious injury to the victim, the sentence is going to be as follows. Now, to try to explain that to you, I think even the work crew out of Mabry, they do a lot of good things. They have a garden out there that raise like 20,000 pounds a year that they give to the food banks. You could be working out there. where you'd be picking up litter, whatever is gonna be assigned to you on work crew.
Oh, that's one question before you
And
continue.
she is in this community.
That,
that's what make sure.
yeah, you live in Cowlitz though?
Cowlitz.
Yeah, she lives in Cowlitz, that's where grandma's residence is.
Well, she'll figure out how to get
I
there.
can get, I have a call.
Okay.
Okay. So the sentence is gonna be 40 days, 30 of eight of those days gonna be on work crew, and 2 are gonna be in custody. You're gonna start that now. I see this easily as serious as a higher reading DWI. A lot of people don't intend to drink and have to do 48 hours in jail. I think you need to do some jail time. I believe she hasn't ever been booked, right, in this case, because she's never formally arrested, so that will be it. As to she qualifies in the Blazina case, I don't believe I can impose any of the monetary penalties. Or is she's only working 2 days a week, I assume she's still.
I'm working more than 2 days a week.
She's 3, so,
3.
yeah.
What's your approximate monthly income then?
I get paid around like 400 per week.
Well, again, if they change their mind and if they need restitution for out-of-pocket expenses, I would prefer it go again to the victim. But I will impose the discretionary fine. I can do that at $300. The other fees will be waived. You're going to be on a supervised probation just to make sure you follow all these things and get them done as quickly as you can. I'm also going to impose what's called thinking for a change. That's going to be 25 classroom sessions you're going to have to go to. This is something that's supposedly been pretty successful. It's used in the prison system. I want you to understand how close you came to going to prison. And they use it here in Clark County too.
I would
So
request that if that's going to be ordered, that she be on bench probation, because that's somewhat of a monitoring system, and the supervisor will charge her $100 a month, which again would not go to the victim if there's restitution.
and she can do an extra day of work crew a month to take care of that fee too. So again, until she gets all these conditions done, she'll have to do the thinking for a change and be on supervised probation. Again, no contact with the victim. Understand, I'm not trying to run you out of. I thought she's in the battleground area. Or
Kalama.
no, you are, but no, I mean the victim.
I don't know.
Or I'm sorry. What
Where's she-
area of the county do you live in?
Kalama, Cowlitz
So
County.
you're in Klamath too. That's a small community.
If that's,
So obviously, if you see her at some place and not talk to her, that doesn't mean if you're in line, you gotta run out of the store, but just intentionally make contact with her for the next 2 years. I think that should cover it when she gets that done. And again, I'm not saying couldn't couple with other combination of sentencing, but to tell you how often or how unoften it's used, our farm building was do 3 alternatives at one time without much modification. So I'm just gonna go with the work crew, which may include some community service. Like I say, if you're out there working in the garden, you even have a program where you can make wooden planters that they donate to nonprofits. So you'll pay back in the communities in some ways.
is there any way possible she can report at a different time than today? She's not any sort of flight risk. Would appreciate that if she could.
3 reports later, she must have worked. I think it was.
Well, just next week. I was just thinking next week to give her some time.
So I look at the victim was certainly inconvenienced and rushed to the hospital. Whatever her inconvenience is, she's had 8 months or something like that to prepare for it. So she'll go now.
And Your Honor, I did just want to clarify on the restitution, are you ordering restitution to be
determined.
set?
If they change their mind, obviously hopefully they'll do that in the next few months, and then we'd have to have
Can it be noted restitution to victim, not just blanket? That would be my request. I think that's what was agreed upon.
right.
Thank you.
Whatever that hearing be, certainly within her means, and this could be a case where, maybe say, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a civil lawsuit if there was one, I would think. But
His hands behind back.
Call me when you get out. Call me when you get out.
Do I make this part of the record, file this as part of the record?
Yes, thank you.
Lauren? Did you do that? Because he was, some previous or summer, one of the copies of the photo or anything? I mean, that's
Oh.
public record now.
Right, so they could just get it from the court's file. Yeah.
Referred to you, I think.
Yeah, I saw an email and I was just gonna refer them to the court's file. Yeah. Was this one of yours?
This was there when we got
Was it
here.
here?
I was wondering who that was. Oh.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.